Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar today, Energy Independence, Red, White, Blue, and Green. My name is Gabe Amy, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Cape Fear Solar Systems. And today we will be going through a couple of things. We'll start here by sharing a little bit about who Cape Fear Solar Systems is. We'll also, of course, introduce energy storage and how it works. I know many of you may already be solar customers. You might have solar in your home already and don't have storage. Some of you perhaps already have energy storage and are curious to just learn a little bit more about how it might function. And others of you might not have solar or energy storage and are curious about how it can benefit their home at all. So we'll talk a little bit about reasons homeowners install storage, as well as available products on the market. We'll even give some quick sneak peeks to some products that are expected to come out in 2025. We'll also touch on available incentives. And finally, we'll allow for some time for Q&A, and I'll tag in some of our project developers to speak to some of the questions that might arise along the way. Well, let's get started. I just want to encourage anyone as well, feel free to submit those questions into the chat so that we can jump on them at the end. We'll answer as many as we can, so please don't hesitate to submit those. First off, we always start here. Who is Cape Fear Solar? We've been in business since 2007. We've done over 4,500 installs throughout the region in that time. We have 60 plus employees, all operating right here out of downtown Wilmington, where we serve really about a 2.5, 3 hour radius of our coastal Wilmington area. So we'll go down, of course, and do plenty of work. We've become experts in the Myrtle Beach area. We love to work with our homeowners in the Raleigh market. I myself am up from Fuquay Marina, so love to visit back up in that area. And of course, up our coast here into the Morehead City, Beaufort, and even up into the Outer Banks. Of course, we are BBB accredited and feel really strongly that our reviews often speak for themselves. And lastly, being that we're ultimately a regional company and focus on those communities, we find that we're going to be the experts best suited to navigate this process of evaluating solar, regardless of the community that you're in. Next, we have the different products that we install. So of course, install solar and EV chargers. Today's webinar is going to be focused heavily on battery storage and how it provides us with that energy independence. Then jumping on in here to the basics of energy storage. So some of the basics are that it stores excess solar energy for future use. So the battery is really there for the purpose of taking what additional energy solar might be producing during the day, allowing you to store it, which then you can use to provide backup power in the event of an outage. It also then allows the solar to keep producing in an outage. Since you've sort of closed off that loop from the grid, you're able to charge the battery, allow the battery to power the home, and continue that cycle essentially indefinitely. It also protects from utility rate changes. So something we'll talk a little bit more about here in a moment. And finally, empowers homeowners to understand their energy. We see an image here of Tesla's monitoring app. We'll certainly talk a little bit more about those tools here in a moment as well. Now, to take a closer look at exactly how energy storage works, we have a neat diagram here, one that we've shown many times before, so it might be familiar. And what this is really demonstrating is that when the solar energy is being produced by those panels on the roof, that energy is going to feed back onto the grid. And that at least is going to be the traditional function if you have a solar only installation. You're going to be pushing that energy back to the grid where you build up credit, and then you receive that credit on your utility bill at the end of the month. Now, that doesn't give you any power in the event of an outage. If the grid goes down and you have solar but no battery, then you have nowhere to store that excess energy and no tool to really manage energy that's being produced or consumed in an outage, and therefore your system actually is going to automatically shut off when the grid goes down. It's that battery that, again, closes off that loop, allows you to store excess energy during the day for use here, as we see on the right, at night, or even to be able to use that energy at times when it might be more advantageous for you in the instance of a time of use rate structure. As we move along here, we'll highlight each of these reasons someone might install energy storage individually. The first being that it's a protection from grid outages. So obviously that's the obvious one. We speak to it quite a lot. Some of the things that we know and quite apparent are that hurricanes and other disasters put the grid at risk. So whenever there's a major disaster, we've seen this unfortunately recently with Helene, up with our neighbors in the western part of the state. Many have been without power for an extremely extended period of time as the grid has been down. And also, we want to point out how these products compare to traditional gas or propane generators, which require fuel and even constant maintenance. Now, something else that could leave the grid vulnerable is just the reality that increased demand on the grid is going to weaken the utility's ability to provide enough power. Our state of North Carolina is one of the fastest growing in the country. The utility, Duke Energy, as well as local co-ops are working vigorously to try to increase their ability to meet demand. However, if you can take that into your own hands and store power and really insulate yourself from those issues, you're going to be better protected from potential vulnerability. It also is just a seamless transition to backup power. Thanks to the transfer switch technology that's installed with every battery solution, you're going to see an automatic transition that happens really seamlessly. In many cases, homeowners don't even know that power was out. And also, it's going to be something you can monitor. So you're able to see how much storage capacity you have left. You just have to take a quick peek at your app. You can see I have this much capacity left in my battery. I'm charging it at this rate because the sun is out. I can also see how much energy I'm using at a given moment. So you can anticipate how long your battery is going to last. You can make adjustments. And there are other products to help assist in managing your usage as well. So that's something we'll talk a little bit more about once we get to specific products. Another reason homeowners install energy storage is that it insulates them from utility rate changes. So a couple of things that we'll talk about here are most commonly that we've been very fortunate in the state of North Carolina, as well as in South Carolina, that many of our utilities have operated on a pretty traditional, straightforward billing structure, in that you're going to pay a base rate, and then you're going to pay a per kilowatt hour cost for the energy that you consume. Now, many areas that have grown rapidly across the country have seen that they've pivoted towards a time of use rate structure, where the utility is going to charge homeowners more or less depending on the time of day in which that energy is being used. Now, that's been the case for some of our customers on Sandy Cooper, Corey Electric, as well as Carter Craven, but Duke also last year began a slow transition towards a time of use rate structure for their solar customers. Now, this has the potential to be really detrimental long-term if there's not a way to insulate yourself from it, because if you're producing energy during the day, which is oftentimes not a peak time, but then using energy in the evening at a peak time, then that energy you're pushing back to the grid is going to be valued less than if you were producing it at a peak time. And so what a battery allows you to do is store that energy so you can use it later in the evening from the battery. Now, we're also seeing a number of cost increases across states. Duke Energy is now up to just about 14 cents per kilowatt hour in their summer billing season. And with summaries of rider adjustments that many of our customers saw on their bills, that was actually even higher, with as much as 2 additional cents reflected on those bills. Sandy Cooper, our utility in the Myrtle Beach region, is also expecting an 8 to 9% increase to come in 2025. We're going to be going down there to meet with them regarding some of their other programs here later this month, but a lot of folks are super concerned about what impact those increases will have on their bills, not only this year, but for many years to come, as those increases might continue to come. Obviously, producing energy yourself is going to be a way to insulate yourself from those rate changes because you're able to minimize what you're using from the utility, but also with a battery, really control when you're using it from the grid or not. Another increasing factor in the homes using more electricity is also electric vehicles being installed. As more technology becomes available, we just find that we have more appliances, more tools, though they continue to get more efficient, that are increasing homes' electricity usage. So that's just something for people to be aware of as they look to minimize their potential billing costs with rate changes. Now, the last one here is the visibility and control that energy storage provides. So you can monitor where your energy is coming from and where it's going. And so each battery manufacturer actually has its own monitoring app. The one you see here on the right is from Enphase. So you're able to see, as you can tell from the image, how much energy is being supplied to the home by the grid versus what's produced by solar versus what was maybe discharged by your battery, as well as what was also pushed back to the grid, and what potentially charged your battery as well. So this allows you to manage your longevity by viewing your storage capacity. You can also make adjustments to maintain power and conserve your energy. And you can do that manually by adjusting loads. You might walk over to your HVAC system, your thermostat, turn the temperature up, say, I need to make this last a little bit longer. I don't need to have the temperature quite as cool in this emergency. Or there are potentially load management devices that will assist in extending that battery capacity and automatically shed those loads. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of those as well. So jumping on in here to the available battery products. Now this is, of course, not a complete list of all of the battery products in the industry. This is a short list of those that we've installed over our history. And while we've installed some others, these are the ones that we're most often going to recommend. There are constant developments coming to some of these products. Really every couple of years, they might come out with a new generation. But I'm going to highlight here some of the key things to know about these products and really why now more than ever, homeowners have been choosing to move forward with storage with some of these technologies. And those are the Tesla Powerwall 3, Franklin Whole Homes A-Power, Enphase Energy's IQ Battery 5P, Generac's PowerCell, and Fortress's Avalon product. All right, so we'll start with the Tesla Powerwall 3. This was launched, I believe it was the beginning of last year, or I guess that was this year, 2024. The storage capacity of this product is 13.5 kilowatt hours. And just to kind of give a high level view of what that means is that's how much energy is actually stored within the battery at any given time, and from a maximum perspective. So if you had a full charge of your battery, it would have 13.5 kilowatt hours. How quickly you're going to use that energy is going to be determined by the rate at which you're using it, so that the output that is coming out of it. Now, the maximum power output of this battery is 11.5 kW. And the motor start, or in other words, the peak locked rotor amperage that this battery can provide, which is going to speak to how much of a heavy load it can start, is 185 amps. So that's going to be by far sufficient to start and run essentially every load on your 200 amp panel. And that's really been kind of the benchmark of these products in this newer generation. We'll look at some others here in a moment that don't quite hit that mark, but also are able to meet the demand of an HVAC unit. And that's really why this product has kind of been on the cutting edge of the battery products coming out thus far. The warranty on this battery is 10 years. And some of the key things to know about this product is that it's capable of being both DC and AC coupled. What that means is that Tesla's battery, this Powerwall 3, comes with an inverter that can be used for the solar conversion, which is where the DC energy that the panels produce is turned into AC energy to either then be stored in the battery as it's taken back to DC or otherwise used directly by the home. Now, the DC version of that is efficient. It's very cost effective. It does minimize your potential visibility in terms of what's going on the roof. And it otherwise is going to be a really simple and effective solution. AC coupling, what that means is that you could, in theory, use a different inverter product and then have that brought into the battery system, such as an N-phase. Maybe you'd like to have microinverters where you can actually look at each individual module up on the roof and see exactly what it's producing. Just to add a little bit of granularity, that can also be used as well. Now, it can take up to 20 kW DC, even though it's an 11.5 kW inverter. So with a project developer, and you'd want to design, okay, does it make sense to do just one battery? Do I need a separate inverter to maybe maximize my power production? But it's extremely capable from an inverter perspective to be able to allow for that much input. From a mounting perspective, it can either be wall mounted or floor mounted. And one of the neat features of this product is that it can be stacked as well. So if you had a space where you just wanted to stack one off of the face of the other, you can do that. Some other neat features that have developed is the Gateway 3, which is essentially their version of a transfer switch. That's what changes over to backup power when the grid goes down. Can also be integrated with the Cybertruck to allow for vehicle-to-home charging. So that's a really cool feature for anyone who's been interested in the Cybertruck product, and just further integrates the system. Also, it has the ability to install what are called expansion units, where you can increase the storage capacity without having to worry about increasing the power output. This just means that maybe it's a slightly more cost-effective way of increasing your storage if you don't need more power. And lastly, it's worth noting that it's flood resistant. They've shown many tests where it can be submerged actually in potentially quite a bit of flooding water and continue to operate without any hazard. That's just due to the way that it's an encapsulated battery and cannot be penetrated from the bottom of those sides. And we see an image here up in the top right of what Tesla's monitoring looks like. Very elegant. If you have a Tesla vehicle, of course, you can monitor the charging of that vehicle within the same app as well. Just provides a pretty seamless experience from that perspective. So next, we'll jump over to the Franklin Whole Home A-Power. So this product has a storage capacity of 13.6 kilowatt hours. Its power output is 5 kW, and it has a motor start of 118 amps, and that's the locked rotor amperage there. Now this warranty is a little bit longer than Tesla's at 12 years. So you can expect maybe a little bit longer life. And some of the key things to know here are that this is a strictly AC coupled battery. So it doesn't have its own inverter, but it's designed to be paired with any other inverter product. So that would be an N-phase. You could in theory even use a Tesla inverter. A neat little feature is that it has what they refer to as automatic heating. So if you had to install your battery outside because there wasn't, a utility area or even a garage where it might be best located, it's going to be able to manage conditions in the colder times of the year and actually maintain a temperature that's going to provide for the best performance of that battery. From a smart circuit perspective, it has the ability to be installed with a load management device to shed a few heavier circuits to ensure that in the worst of circumstances, you can run your system longer by shedding those loads. It also has a generator integration capability. Really, to sum up the Franklin Whole Home product, it's got an immense array of capabilities and really can be configured for a specific situation, depending on a specific homeowner's needs and wants. And lastly, worth noting, the chemistry is lithium iron phosphate, which for anyone who is interested is just characteristically the safest of the battery chemistries. Obviously, all of these products are tested vigorously to make sure that they're safe, that they're going to be worthy of being installed at a home. But just from a absolute worst case scenario of all the terrible things that could happen with any technology like this, lithium iron phosphate is just the safest chemistry. That's something that customers are often happy to hear. Another product worth highlighting is Enphase's IQ Battery 5P. The storage capacity is 5 kilowatt hours. It's 3.84 kW of power output. The motor start is 48 locked rotor amps. And the warranty is the longest of these other products, which is 15 years, the longest of any battery product that I'm familiar with on the market. A couple of things to note here are that it's AC coupled and compatible strictly with Enphase's IQ8 micros. So if you have a system currently and it's got an older generation of Enphase microinverters, unfortunately, that's not going to be compatible with this product. However, it also does have a load management device, a load control device that can be installed with it to similarly shed loads up to 6 double pool loads. The generator integration capability also is there, so that you can have an ability to integrate your generator and have it take over in the event that the battery storage runs out of power. And also, it's just part of a larger ecosystem. You've got Enphase's app there on the right where you can see your solar monitoring is easily viewed within the same platform. They also have their own EV chargers and are working on a bi-directional EV charging solution that we hope will be available in 2025. That remains to be seen. But yeah, it's certainly a neat product in itself. Now, 5 kilowatt hours is a much smaller battery, as you can tell. But obviously you can install a couple of these batteries if you're looking to offer if you're looking to have a similar solution to the Tesla or Franklin or one of the others. And this image here shows actually 4 that were installed at this home, I believe in the Jacksonville area. So moving on to the Generac power cell. So Generac solution, this is a little bit more dynamic in terms of how much capacity it could have. The Generac solution is essentially a cabinet that stores battery cells. So you're going to have anywhere from 3 to 6 cells in that cabinet, each of them being 3 kilowatt hours. And so you could choose to install a system anywhere from 9 to 18 kilowatt hours, all within one cabinet. Of course, with any of these products, you can install multiple batteries, or in this case, multiple cabinets. And with those different cell offerings, you're going to have a power output of anywhere between 3.4 kW to 6.7 kW. You also are going to have a locked rotor amperage of 25 to 50. And then the warranty is going to be 10 years. Now, this product is designed to be installed with the DC inverter from Generac as well. It, of course, is going to enable Generac generator integration. They have their own load management device called Power Manager, which has been a product that I think our customers have really enjoyed, how easy that's able to use. And then lastly, something worth mentioning is just that the launch of the next generation power cell product is expected for early next year. And just to kind of provide a sneak peek of what that might provide, Generac is actually working with ecobee for their smart thermostat to integrate with the PowerCell 2 product and provide homeowners the ability to monitor their solar and their battery system directly from their thermostat in their home. So certainly you'd still be able to monitor from your phone or computer, but I thought it was a neat feature to be able to walk by, see the monitoring on your thermostat, potentially even adjust your HVAC system and see what impact that has on your capacity, specifically in an outage situation. So more to come there. We encourage you to stay in touch. And if you're interested in being in the loop on when that product becomes available, definitely reach out and we'll let you know as soon as we can. Now, the Fortress Avalon is another product that we've begun installing recently. The storage capacity is between 14.7 and 29.4 kilowatt hours. And that's driven by, as you can see in the image here, it's a stackable cabinet. So you can add those cells vertically to increase capacity. The power output is going to depend on the inverter you pair it with, which is an Avalon inverter between 7.6 kW or 11.4 kW. The motor start is going to be 80 locked rotor amps, and it has a similar warranty to the Enphase in that it's going to match at 15 years. Now, this is an integrated system where, much like the Generac system, a little bit like Enphase's system, where you have to utilize the DC inverter from Fortress. It also, though, has a smart energy load management feature where you can use several loads that can be managed within the smart energy panel. Of course, they offer generator integration as well. It also has an LCD screen where you can view the system status. And it's worth mentioning that it's a lithium iron phosphate chemistry as well. All right, so now that we've talked about those products, I wanted to take a moment to speak to some of the available incentives in terms of whether you're investing in solar only or potentially in battery storage. There's really three main incentives to be aware of. The first is the federal tax credit. So with the federal tax credit, that's 30% of the system cost that you can claim directly against your federal tax liability. If you have an investment of, $10,000, for instance, that means that's $3,000 that you can claim directly dollar for dollar back on your taxes. For the Duke Energy Power Pair incentive, this is going to be for anyone who's installing a new solar and new battery system together. You'd be eligible for up to $9,000 in the form of a cash incentive from Duke. That is something we've been talking about a lot. I'm sure you've seen ads around town. You've heard us on the radio. Maybe even talked to one of our project developers about it already. But that is a massive incentive that really makes adding a battery to a system that you're going to install brand new that much of a no-brainer. Really pays for itself right there off the bat. That is a limited capacity program and one that just isn't going to be around forever. So we just want to encourage everyone who is looking to investigate it to do that now. Now, if you have solar already and you're interested in installing a battery or not, then something to be aware of from a battery incentive perspective is Duke's new EnergyWise battery control program. And the way that that works is it's going to be based on the power output of the battery that you install. But Duke is going to pay you up to $92 a month to opt into their virtual power plant program, where they have the ability to tap into your battery anywhere between 30 to 36 times a year. You have the ability to opt out up to 4 times a year. But just by participating in that program, Duke will pay you up to $92 a month in the form of a bill credit every month, regardless of if they actually have an event where they tap into it. And the motivation for Duke behind this is strictly to be able to support the grid at those times where the critical peak demand is increasing beyond what they can support. And so this actually is going to have the effect of stabilizing the grid for everyone. And of course, it benefits those of us who are going to take part in the program and enjoy a little bit of money extra back in their pocket as well. I would let people know that the average credit, you're going to expect somewhere between $30 to $60 based on which battery and configuration you choose. All right, so that was a lot of information there. Jumping on over to our Q&A. Before I jump into these, I want to take a moment to just share a few things from our website. So feel free, if you are interested in getting a quote, scheduling a time to talk to one of our project developers to learn more about a battery system, talk about the solution, see which one might be a good fit. I just want to encourage you to go ahead and fill out a form on our website. You can do that there. Also, if anyone has additional questions after this webinar and you'd like to reach me, you're welcome to. Here's my name and email. So thank you again, and we'll jump right into the Q&A. Let's see what the first question is. All right, so a couple questions here. All right. Matt, I think I might tag you in here. I got a question from Mr. Dorr saying, I have 2 panels and submitted EnergyWise application for both. do they pay for more than one?
Yep. So they will pay, it kind of depends on the battery, what the credit will be. But for the system that we worked with you, Andy, it will be for that full $92. So I'll give you $92 credit every single month to your bill.
That's an awesome question. Yeah, thanks for asking that, Andy. If you have more storage, then yeah, you're going to put yourself in a position to be eligible for the full $92. I got another question here saying, I see you at your headquarters. You have a row of solar covered parking spaces. What is the ballpark cost on a per space basis of such a solar system? Randy, I have to be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to talk to one of our commercial project developers. Those are solutions often designed for parking lots for commercial businesses. So I appreciate the question. I'd have to put you in touch with one of them to be able to speak to it more specifically. As with anything, I'd expect as you get to a larger scale, you're going to find the cost per space to go down. So yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that more. Appreciate you asking. Here I have a question from Keith. Have you guys installed vehicle to home system for Ford Lightning? I don't believe we have. Caleb, speak up if you feel differently. Okay. No, I don't believe we have. Sorry, Caleb. And to be honest, Keith, I think the biggest challenge we've had there is that Ford actually chose to work with Sunrun for those Ford Lightning charger installs, and has had a really difficult time being clear about authorizing anyone else to install it. And that wouldn't be an issue if Sunrun operated here, but they don't. So we've gotten a couple calls from different people, and they've asked for us to do it, and we just, to be honest with you, we have no way to be able to do it because they don't have a pathway for individual contractors like ourselves to get approved for it. So appreciate you asking there. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Sunrun deal with Ford kind of stinks. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I'm 100% there. So Keith, yeah, I see your note here as well, speaking to having backup with Enphase and the system controller for essentially having sunlight backup. Yeah, it's kind of lame that they made it not compatible with the 5P for the 5 kilowatt hours. I agree. Super interested as well in what the vehicle to home charging looks like with bidirectional. It just seems like that just keeps getting pushed off. It's going to be a pretty major challenge to integrate those systems into these homes. There's going to be a great deal of infrastructure having to be put in with whatever. I would imagine they're going to have you upgrade whatever system controller you have put in now, but it'll be really interesting to see what that looks like. All right, looks like that's all the questions I have now. I'm curious if there are any other questions coming in. Fellas, if you have any thoughts, anything that you feel like I missed, some of the things that might be coming up in your conversations about storage solutions now, be interested to hear if there's anything worth sharing that I missed.
I'd add that installing a storage for hurricane season, the best time to do it is not when hurricane season starts. It's well before hurricane season comes.
That is a good point, Gail. That's a great point. As with anything else, if someone decides that they wanted to install storage for their home, and we're not, unfortunately, we're blessed to be in a position where we're not going to be able to put you on the calendar tomorrow, right? We're talking about projects that are going to be installed in January and even going into February now. So if you are interested in battery storage, there's really no better time than in the next month or two to be evaluating that further, so that when the time comes, the system's ready to go for next hurricane season. Otherwise, I just want to thank you all for your time. Thanks for the shout out, Keith. We appreciate you being present again. And for all of you, if there's any other questions, you can reach us. You can reach me at my email. You can go to our website, fill out a form, and talk to one of our project developers. Otherwise, we thank you again for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your night.